Okay.
Good afternoon to you all, and I'm sure you are ready to embark on a learning experience with Miss H. I'm Hazel Chugwada. I will be taking you for English First Additional Language, grade 12. Welcome, and if you have any question, feel free to ask. Today's lesson is on comprehension, a longer text and a shorter text. We've been looking at comprehension before, and you know that for comprehension, you need to read for understanding. And we are going to be having interactive reading so that you understand. And as we do interactive reading, you will also be answering some questions. At the end of the lesson, you'll be able to analyze the title and link it to the text, write correct answers from the text, give answers to a variety of questions, apply the skills learned to answer questions, interpret information from an... Okay. Now, on the screen there is a picture. And when you comprehend, it's not all about comprehending words or comprehending a text that is written in words. Sometimes it could be a picture and you need to make sense of what's going on. So to start our minds going on, let's look at the picture there. And on our picture, we can see that there is a playground. And the people who are in this playground are mainly the young boys and young girls, our toddlers or the young kids in primary school or the foundation phase. And then I'm going to look at the passage that I've chosen for you particularly with relation to the picture that we have. Firstly, for comprehension, you need to read the title and try to interpret it. And it can have a significant meaning or a literal meaning. So the one that I'm having here, I will read for you, and I know you are reading wherever you are. From the playground to the boardroom. Now, the word playground brings us back to our picture that we had earlier on. Why will we have from the playground to the boardroom? Let's look at those kids who were playing around. Playgrounds are mainly meant for the young ones as they are trying to develop their motor skills. So we are having playground. Who is linked to the playground? These are young children. So young children, now we have boardroom. A boardroom is used at workplaces, and who goes to work? The adults. So from my understanding, the title, before I even read, I am saying, yes, I'm looking or I'm predicting, I'm going to expect to find information that has to do with children and adults and their changes from those who are young, as in children, and the adults who are in the boardrooms. So now I want to find out what is it that the writer is talking about. What is it that the writer is telling me about? What changes from playground, from being a child and being an adult? But if we are to look, there's playground and a boardroom. There's informal play and formal things there. So I'm going now to read. That's how you analyze the title. Try to look at the words. Why have these words been used? So from my understanding, playground here, we have a picture of children, and then boardroom, we have a picture of adults. So we are going to look at from being an adult to, from being a child to being an adult. Now I will start reading. I already have expectations. Paragraph number 1. I shall read. Until 2 decades ago, bullying was largely associated with children terrorizing one another in school playgrounds. In South Africa, many companies still have that perception. Now, before you go on to the next paragraph, you ask yourself, remember we talked about interactive reading. Try to ask questions to the writer. Imagine the writer is there and you work out the answers on your own. Now, we are saying in paragraph 1, bullying was associated with children who were playing in school grounds and they were terrorizing. Why the use of the word terrorizing? Now, the use of the word terrorizing is showing us how ugly this bullying was in school playground because of the strong verb terrorizing. It is just painting that ugly picture of people who are bullying each other in a school playground. And that is what the companies also believe, that no, bullying is meant for the young ones only who are still in school and in the playgrounds. Then I will go on. Now, because this is the perception, their view, now let's find out what is or what has changed. Remember our reflective writing. When you are reflecting, you are looking back and you are focusing on what has changed. How has the past made you to be what you are? Now, this is something that was said in the past, but now some companies, they still have that perception. Now let's find out more. Paragraph 2. This was clearly evident in a study I recently conducted, where respondents looked at me with utter surprise when I raised the subject of bullying at work. The typical response was, "This is not kindergarten," or something to that effect. Yet, the more we unpacked this phenomenon together, the more respondents began to realize the extent to which bullying exists within their organizations. This, in and on itself, points to the low levels of awareness of bullying in the South African workplace. So, in paragraph 2, we are now getting a sense that this article we are reading, it is based on a research that had been carried out, and to show us that, or to make us believe whatever we are going to get, there is emphasis or there is use of the pronoun I. This was clearly evident in a study I recently conducted. And the moment someone uses I when he or she is talking or writing, we are bound to believe in him, or we say there's some authenticism in whatever he is saying. So from paragraph 2, we get to know that because this person had told that this is a research that he carried on, then those people who were saying, yes, bullying is for kindergarten, they ended up melting to the idea that it is also evident in South African workplace. Now, let's read on. Paragraph 3. So, what exactly is bullying? Now that people had been told about bullying, there is a question. And the use of a question in paragraph 3 is preparing us to understand, or to the writer unpacking what it is that constitutes bullying, especially in workplace, because that's where the argument was that bullying is only for those in school playgrounds. But after his research, people began to melt into his idea, and now we are going to have it explained. There is, in fact, a range of definitions and arguments about the scope and characteristics of workplace bullying, a fact which points to the infancy of the research. Notwithstanding countless, often country-specific definitions, workplace bullying is regarded as abusive conduct and the mistreatment of others at work that causes significant harm. Now, from our paragraph 4, we are now being introduced to bullying, but the writer would want us to have an open mind when it comes to bullying, because you say it depends with countries, but in general, all the definitions that he got, they agreed that bullying is an abusive conduct in the mistreatment of others at work, and it causes significant harm. Then we go on to the next paragraph. We have the definition had been explained or given to us. Now we go on to paragraph 5. Additionally, the general consensus is that bullying is characterized by repetition and duration. It occurs regularly over a period of 6 months, and escalation, usually accompanied by an increase in aggression. It is for this reason that single isolated negative acts cannot be defined as bullying. Now, to add had been discussed, that it cannot happen overnight, but it's something that happens over some time, and once it happens over some time, usually 6 months, it will also escalate such that the aggression increases, and when it increases, therefore we will call it bullying. But if it's an isolated case, that is not bullying, according to the writer. Now, paragraph 6. While bullying encompasses threatening, humiliating, or intimidating actions, work interference, and/or sabotage and verbal abuse, many of the respondents I spoke to were more familiar with the notion of harassment at work than with bullying. This is not peculiar to South Africa, but to fully understand the impact of workplace bullying, it is important to separate it from the crowd and understand the particular influences it plays. Now, the writer is telling us that, yes, bullying comes in the form of threats, humiliation, intimidation, and work interference, or even sabotage and verbal abuse. And I know you are very familiar with this. You have done it in your life orientation, where you were looking at bullying at some point, the different types of bullying. That's what the writer is simply hammering on. But he goes on to say, this is not only for South Africa, it's not only significant in South Africa, but you need to fully understand the effect of workplace bullying. Now he's narrowing this bullying and telling us that it has some repercussions, it has some effect on those that it is instigated on. It is important to separate it from the crowd and understand the particular influence. So here the crowd, he simply say, we must not look at bullying as in a bigger frame, but we must try to remove it from the other types of bullying that we have and look at workplace bullying on its own, because it has some other effect that might not be evident when bullying happens outside workplaces. I will continue reading. Paragraph 7. While Collins' dictionary defines a bully as someone who hurts, persecutes, or intimidates weaker people, it fails to take into account the particular impact of bullying in a work context and how this creates power imbalances, which in turn can perpetuate a culture of bullying. Something very interesting here. We go back to our vocabulary. When we are looking or working out a meaning for a word, we said there will always be so many explanations and definitions, but you need to work out the meaning in context. So what Collins Dictionary gives some explanation and definitions, but it's not in context of work. And the writer would want us to view bullying in a work context and how it creates power imbalances. And if we are to look at these imbalances, think of a workplace where we have maybe the general hands and those in management. And then if there is bullying, then it would mean one group would feel inferior and the other one would be feeling very superior. So that imbalance, it then can perpetuate a culture of bullying because there is this group and then it's looked down upon, in this group it has to be respected and all. So one group can take advantage. All right, remember we said we need to interact with the passage. That's what we are doing to get a better understanding. I will continue. Critically, under South African law, specifically Section 6 of the Employment Equity Act, employees are protected from harassment, but no bullying specific legislation exists. The concern that while bullying continues to be wrapped up in the broader definition, the ability to enforce policies and institute meaningful interventions is hampered. Remember earlier on, the writer said we need to separate workplace bullying from the crowd and discuss and understand it on its own, in its own context. The same thing is being explained in paragraph 7, where he is saying this idea of bullying at workplaces, it is not so much evident because there are so many things that shroud it or cover it, and then we don't really see it. Even with our laws, it seems there are no specific laws as to workplace bullying. Okay, and then I'm going to move on. All right, almost all the people I spoke to agreed that the most distinguishing issue between bullying and harassment at work was the difficulty of proving bullying. Remember, for whatever you report on, they always want an exhibit. Now, with bullying here, almost all the people that he worked on as his population when carrying out the research, they agree that it's very difficult to distinguish between harassment at work and proving that I had been bullied. Harassment is easy to prove because it is protected by law. So it's a follow-up to paragraph 7 where he highlighted that or hinted that the law does not protect or people, or it does not have specific clauses that deal with bullying. Harassment is easy to prove because it is protected by law. However, in instances where an organization does not share a common definition of bullying, employees are unlikely to recognize the negative behavior associated with bullying as in fact bullying. Essentially, almost all participants attributed the prevalence of bullying in the workplace to political power shifts and to changing social identities in South Africa. So it is a common agreement that, yes, bullying is there in the workplace, mainly due to political power shifts and to changing social identities in society. Remember, we have some levels in society. So these are also seen as some of those where we can see bullying as evident. Of all the social identity categories, I found race and gender to be most salient in explaining bullying. It is the most critical one, the most important one in explaining bullying. Although it is important to note that participants also highlighted issues such as cultural beliefs, religion, sexual orientation, and education. They identified race and gender as the overarching reasons for bullying. So paragraph 9 is mainly about what it is that mainly constitutes to this bullying. Where do we really find the source of this bullying? So it is mainly race and gender. Then paragraph 10. The study also found that while participants confirmed the prevalence of bullying in their organizations, many reported finding it difficult to associate what was happening with the notion of bullying. Some of the targets preferred to use alternative terms, so they do not want to link or to name bullying as such, but they try to use some terms, some alternative terms, because they don't have that courage to say this is bullying. The term bullying appeared, to use alternative terms such as injustice and unfair labor practice. The term bullying appeared to carry a stigma of weakness. So no one would want to be associated with that, which explains why some appeared uncomfortable with being associated with the term or being referred to as the victims of bullying. Who would want to be identified as a weakling in society? No one. Therefore, most people avert using bullying and go on to use alternative terms like injustice, unfair labor. All right, then paragraph 11. The findings of study have shown that bullying is a serious, yet silent and relatively unacknowledged problem in the South African workplace, a silent killer. If this is true, one can reasonably conclude that many employees and employers in South Africa are unaware of the extent, nature, and effects of bullying in their workplaces. And yet, the impact is pervasive, as this respondent told me. Now he's bringing back to show us that this is not coming from him. Remember, he carried out a research so that we'll believe in him, that authenticity. This respondent told me, open quotes, the culture of organization is to be scared. We are scared, and that's how things have been, and that's how things are, and that's how things will be. So it had become a culture or a tradition that this is what it should be. There is some fear in people. So even if there's bullying, no one will do anything. No one will say anything about. Then the last paragraph, a comment like this highlights the importance of understanding this phenomenon and the negative effect it has on staff morale, culture, values, productivity, and therefore, the bottom line, the solution might lie in education, training wellness professionals in detecting bullying, heightening the level of awareness of the phenomenon in organizations, and developing policies aimed at creating bully-free work environments might prove key in exposing this pervasive phenomenon. That was the last paragraph. Indeed, it was a long text. And the last paragraph, it is a summary, or it is a conclusion to what had been started earlier on about bullying. In the end, the writer, just like in his research, presumably, he is giving us some ideas on what should be done so that people at workplaces will understand this phenomenon of bullying. And how do we do that? One, it might be in education. Who is to be educated? Professionals to detect bullying, and then if there is anything, they must raise some awareness on what it is that constitutes bullying and create a bully-free work environment. So these are the solutions that he is offering in the end. And once you have read your text like this, there is no way that you are going to miss on any of the points. Remember, the first reading, it's your general idea, you quickly read. The second reading, like I've just done, I skipped the first reading, I just went on to the second reading, where I'm reading for information and understanding. I'm analyzing paragraph by paragraph, and from there I'll be able to get my information. Now let's go on to using the text to answer questions. On the screen there, I'm having my questions, and I've tried to put the text again so that you will see what it is that we are looking at. When you have questions, as you answer, please number correctly. There is question 1.1. You write it as 1.1 and you answer in full sentences and weigh how many marks am I to get for this question. And your answer should be one that calls for those 2 marks if it's 2, like my number 1 there. It's 1.1. What point does the writer convey about bullying in paragraph 1? And we have 2 marks. So we go back to paragraph 1. Now, if you have forgotten, read again your paragraph number 1. Unit 2, until 2 decades ago, bullying was largely associated with children terrorizing one another in school playgrounds. In South Africa, many companies still have that perception. So from there, how does the writer convey about bullying? What point is he trying to tell us or to sell to us? He simply saying, as you write in your answer, the writer is saying bullying was largely associated with children and it's still happening with some companies. They still have that belief. So it has to be, there must be some companies still have that belief, and also bullying was associated with children. So if you have those 2, you would have answered your question fully. Then you go on to the next one. Account for the writer's use of the word terrorizing. There's the word account for. Now, why is he using terrorizing there? You need to explain fully why did you choose the word terrorizing. So you go back, terrorizing. Think of the terrorists. To terrorize. Why are they referred to as terrorists? They terrorize. What's to terrorize? A very strong verb there. So when you answer your question there, you are going to say, terrorizing is a strong verb that shows force and some disturbances to a normal situation in this case. That's why the writer has used terrorize to show us that children, they inflict harm upon the others. That's why. So terrorizing is a strong verb that shows that there is some force being used. And to show that children, they do the same, the writer uses terrorizing. They create a very scary environment for the others in the playground because of bullying. Then 1.3. Explain the use of the personal pronouns in paragraph 2. Now, if you are to look at it, there is no way you can run away from your language. Those who do not want to revise your language, it's time you revise. Now, you need to know what a personal pronoun is. And then once you know what a personal pronoun is, that word which replaces a noun, and then you go back, you look for it. Which one is a personal pronoun there? There is the pronoun, personal pronoun, I, the first personal pronoun. All right. So if I'm having I, why is it being used in paragraph 2? You go back where I had been used there. So this was clearly evident in a study I recently conducted when I raised the subject. So because of that we are bound to believe. It brings some credibility to the text. It has some authenticity in what he is telling us about bullying. We believe in him because of the first person pronoun I. Then you go on to 1.4. Refer to lines 24 to 26 to fully understand up to influences at play. Now you go back to your line 24 to 26 and then you have to read it. So what are we reading it for? Suggest why the writer states that workplace bullying should be separated from the crowd. And from the crowd had been put in quotes. It had been written in quotes. Go back to 24 to 26. Now I will read again from 24. This is not peculiar to South Africa, but to fully understand the impact of workplace bullying, it is important to separate it from the crowd and understand the particular influences at play. Here, the crowd is seen as a collection of all those other reasons or why people are bullied and what bullying entails. Now, he wants us to look at bullying on its own, separate from the other bullying that we have. So, from the crowd, he had been written in quotes there to show us that bullying at workplaces should be taken seriously and in its own context, not using the other context. Then we go on to 1.5. With close reference to paragraph 7, discuss why bullying continues in the workplace. Here there is the word discuss. So, and we have 3 marks. So we need to describe, give more information on why bullying continues in the workplace. So you comment on the laws that there are no bullying specific legislation, and also it is wrapped up in broader definition, and it's difficult to enforce policies, and then institute meaningful intervention. Those 3. First, it is not protected from harassment. It is not, firstly, bullying, there are no bullying specific legislations. 2, it is wrapped up in broader definition, and the ability to enforce policies is difficult, and to institute meaningful intervention is just hampered. So those are the 3. Explain using your own words. All right. And then I'm sure you have seen how I've answered the questions. And this is exactly what I expect you to do in the exam. There is nothing difficult. All the answers are in your passage. Just go to your questions and then read and understand. Now, we are quickly moving on to the last one, which I am just going to comment on. Refer to line 40. We have just done that. So when you are working at it, sometimes you are asked to comment on the style, and we've been looking at style in literature. We've been looking at style when we look at different types of writing. So you need to know what is it that is entailed under style. You are looking at the language, you are looking at the register. So for 1.8 there, it says refer to paragraph 2 and 3. You go back, you read, you ask yourself, describe the writer's style in this paragraph. What language does he use? Is he using slang? Is he using jargon? Is he using formal language? In this case, formal. Why? Because it could be part of his research. So he wants us to see what he had been researching on. So it's a formal piece of writing. That's why he was using formal language then, because it is from his research. Now, discuss the effectiveness of the title in the context of the story. So in this case, we remember you start with your title, and after reading, you go back. Was my interpretation of the title correct or not? If not, why? So you are going to describe, is the title effective in that from playground to boardrooms? Now, is it effective? This is an open-ended question, yes or no. If it were for me, I would say yes, because the perception that we started off with had been ruled off totally in the end, because yes, in the playground children are bullying each other, but there is also bullying in workplace, though it is not as evident as the playground bullying. That's how I will explain it. Remember, you are describing. And since this had been a long text, we are quickly going to look at our shorter text. And for a shorter text, I always tell you, it could be a graph, it could be a pie chart, it could be an advertisement. You need to comprehend and be able to interpret the information that you are presented. In this case, there will always be a heading if it's a graph. What graph do we have here? What is the title? Percentage of annual South African plastic that is recycled. That's the title, that's the heading. From there, already I know that the figures or whatever I'm going to be presented with is going to be on recycled plastic. All right, now we are going to look at this one. It is a bar graph and it's easy. I do not expect any one of you to perform badly in this, because you do graphs in maths, your data handling, you do graphs in science, you have in geography. So this is the commonest graph that you have dealt with, and you know how to deal with it. So make sure you collect all the marks in this section. We have our x-axis, y-axis. Ask yourself, what information do I have presented here? So you look at your graph. I'm having kilotons of plastic, and it is in numbers from 200, counting in 200s going up, and the other axis, I'm having the years on when we, or how much, when we had this recycled plastic. And we are having this bar. It has two colors, the darker shade and the lighter shade. The darker shade here, there's a key. Always read everything that you have on your graph. The key is to your right. We have the darker shade. The darker shade represents the plastic that is not recycled. And then the lighter shade, it is the recycled plastic. So how do I do this, or what do I do? Then you go back. You are saying, yes, now in the year 2000, we are having the plastic that had not been recycled. It had just been too much. And then we have that smaller percentage of recycled plastic. So what does that tell us? You can conclude. Then let's go on to answer the questions. And remember, answer all questions in your own words. Remember, own words. I said, if you feel you are stuck, just substitute one word with a synonym and it becomes your own word, your own sentence, and you will get your marks. Now, 1.11, state the two factors that are being compared in this graph. Now, we are looking at our title. What two factors are being compared here? One, we are looking at plastic that had been recycled and plastic that had not been recycled. We have two factors here. So we get our answer. We have our 2 marks. You move on to the next one. What information does the bar of 2020 reveal? You compare now. We are comparing. So use the language of comparison. You need now to use your comparatives. Now you go on to 2010 and then you compare the two. And now the last one, in your view, is the information about recycling provided in this graph more effective than a written article? Always, this is the moment you see in your view. It's an open-ended question. You are free to express yourself, but substantiate using information from the text. Here, use the bars, use the figures, use the percentages, and this will help you to score more. All right, so here I would like us now, I'm just going to go through what I've been teaching you today. We've looked at a longer text where we said you need to analyze the topic, picture whatever, visualize what's going on in the text, and relate the title to what you would have read. You go on to read paragraph by paragraph. Take your time. You don't have to rush because all the answers are there. All you have to do is take them from the passage and answer the set questions. Remember, once you are done with a paragraph, ask yourself, what have I understood from here? What is the main idea? Then you go on to the next. What do I expect in the next paragraph? Move on to the next paragraph up until you get to the end. If possible, read line by line and analyze the lines. Look at the language. Remember, we say this is a language paper, comprehension. It doesn't mean we are going to have grammar out of context here. Grammar is in context. So read and understand everything. Why have they used this word terrorizing? Why didn't they just use whatever word? So this will help you to have a better understanding of your paper. And having said that, I had wanted you to think about these questions. Refer to line 40 to 42. Almost all participants in South Africa. Comment critically on the writer's inclusion of reference to South Africa. Why referring to South Africa when he was talking about workplace politics and the imbalance of work of positions at work, creating this environment for bullying? Then refer to paragraph where you are supposed to critically comment. There is South Africa, there is that issue of imbalance of power and bullying. Now you play around with those and then you come up with an answer. In your view, are the participants justified in using alternative terms? That's your view. Express your own view. Please don't forget that when you are expressing your view, substantiate. Go back to the passage. Use information that you are given to explain or to support your answer. And describe the writer's style. We have just looked at that one. And then, having said that, I can say thank you for being in attendance, and let's meet again tomorrow same time as we continue with paper 1. Thank you so much for joining us. If you have any question to answer, please feel free to tag us on the, I'm going to give you the social information that you need. And please remember, reading a variety of comprehension texts nourishes the mind. Keep reading and be wise. Now we know a lot about bullying. All right, those who would want to ask some questions, you can tag us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Africa Teen Geeks, hashtag Lockdown eSchool, hashtag SESO Foundation, at DBE_SA. And for some extra information or resources, you can get them on www.ecurriculum.co.za. Thank you so much for being in the lesson today.